Dean Tilby, a scientist, invents a device that travels them back in time to achieve his ultimate anniversary date for his girlfriend. However, Dean miscalculates, which traps them in a loop while he desperately strives to achieve perfection. Dean and Lana reach their getaway destination when they learn that the place is empty. Dismayed about the deserted inn, Dean recalls the activities he enjoyed last year, which he planned to spend with his girlfriend again. Exhausted, Lana picks up her things and suggests going to the beach instead, which reminds Dean that he dreamt of it last night. However, Dean refuses to change plans and takes out the extremely detailed itinerary he prepared for their date, based on his previous knowledge of the place. Lana reminds her date that the motel is closed down, and they have no choice but to look for an alternative. Nevertheless, Dean asserts that they must follow his perfect plan precisely. Then, Lana realizes that her boyfriend is trying to relive their experience last year, since they wear the same clothes Dean loves. Baffled, Lana says that she'll change her clothes and drive to the beach for a swim. Dean tries to stop her from walking away and offers a deep tissue massage, which is listed on his plans rather than fighting. Lana says that she doesn't want to repeat what they did on their last anniversary. Backing down, Dean agrees and embraces his partner to apologize. Lana reciprocates, but Dean suddenly starts massaging her shoulders, so she steps back and heads to their car. Later that day, Lana returns, so Dean invites her inside, where he shows that he recovered electricity and hung a view of a beach painting. Then he rips his list of plans in front of his girlfriend, which he has duplicates of, and implies that they can do whatever Lana wants. However, with nothing in mind, Lana leaves the decision to Dean, who composes himself and looks at his torn schedule on the floor. As a result, Dean follows his initial plan and plays Dutch music with an accordion on the motel's porch. At dinner, Dean opens a bottle of champagne and serves last year's menu. Afterward, the perfectionist man prepares himself for a scheduled sexual moment with his girlfriend. In the room, Dean shows Lana his collection of books which would help them have a fun night. The scientist pulls up what he thinks is more stimulating than his sexual knowledge. To Lana's surprise, her boyfriend takes out his invention, an external limbic system, a device replicating the brain's function. As an anniversary gift, Lana bought Dean a Bunsen burner. The scientist wears the headgear on Lana, where every moment and sensation is recorded and stored so they can replay it repeatedly. Dean also wears the helmet and turns it on. As they are about to create a central memory, a car honks and interrupts them from outside. Frustrated, Lana removes the device and exits to face her ex-boyfriend, Terry. Lana's ex hasn't gotten over the relationship and claims to deliver the underwear she left in his place. Then, Terry boasts of his history as a javelin thrower at the Olympics, where he was fired for using narcotics. The woman tries to tame Dean's anger and explains that Terry will leave soon. Dean drops his device and heads downstairs to confront the intruder when Terry starts taking out stuff from his car. Dean storms to Terry, but immediately gets tased to unconsciousness. Moments later, the scientist wakes up from the floor when he hears Lana planning to leave him with her ex and his helmets to the beach. Soon after, Lana and Terry walk towards the car to leave when Dean takes his helmet from his girlfriend. Betrayed, he tells her he doesn't want to see her again. The scientist splashes ginger wine on his clothes and threatens to burn himself while Terry hands him a match. Lana swats Terry's hands, but Dean splashes the drink on her in hysteria, asserting that he will light them on fire. Anguished, he calls his girlfriend a harlot in French. The scientist feels unappreciated and splashes his drink on Terry, whose jacket is inflammable. So, Dean throws himself onto the former athlete, but Terry easily pushes him to the ground. The heartbroken man refuses his girlfriend's help and tells them to leave. Betrayed, he runs past the two and sits alone on the deserted land while watching them drive away. A year later, the scientist, still at the abandoned motel, calls Lana, who now lives near a beach, from a telephone booth. He greets her with a happy anniversary, but she remains silent. Nevertheless, Dean tells her she's been on his mind ever since and asks to meet him. For the past year, the scientist set his laboratory up in the motel and built a new invention that would bring back time. Dean wants to rekindle the relationship, but the woman drops his call without a word. The scientist is reviewing some circuits at the motel when he hears Lana call his name. Outside, he sees Lana, who wears the same dress he loves. Dean straightforwardly says that he wants to try the relationship again, but Lana rejects since he shamed and threatened to set her on fire last year. Furthermore, she adds that no Dutch songs will fix their relationship and points to his wooden shoes. Regardless, Dean claims he can now control everything, but Lana admits she doesn't like feeling controlled. Lana says she would change everything if she could, so Dean goes upstairs, turns on his machine, and takes his controller with a new pair of shoes. When he goes out, he kisses Lana and switches his controller. Afterward, Lana says that she's giving the scientist another chance. So, Dean brings her into his lab and shows her a hard drive where they recorded last year's memory. Then, the scientist brings down the headgears that will take them back in time. Lana hesitates but sees the Bunsen burner she gave him, learning that her ex has maintained the flame ever since. Learning about Dean's profound love, they wear helmets and brace themselves as the machine whirs to life. Lana asks why he wants to relive their disastrous anniversary date, but Dean reveals that he wants to change it. Successfully, the pair went back in time exactly a year ago. The present Dean and Lana watched their past selves in amazement from inside Dean's empty laboratory room. The scientist promises to turn their destroyed date into perfection by hitting Terry with his javelin. However, Lana finds it absurd and opens the door to return to their car. When she sees their past selves outside, she closes it abruptly to prevent them from seeing her. Then, Dean tells her to follow his plan. Upstairs, he shows her their improved itinerary, but Lana refuses to participate, disappointed from trying to repeat the same date. Suddenly, the past Dean sees the present Lana and calls her inside the room, where he shows her the retrieved electricity, a mattress, and a beach painting, just like what exactly happened that year. However, the past Lana sees the present Dean, who comes back after walking away. She shows him his recorder and wants to continue their date. Seeing no other choice, the scientist leads her to the deserted building in front, across from the past Dean's room, to hide. Dean sees the other two leave the room to play Dutch music according to their old itinerary. The perfectionist man grabs some trash from the floor and attempts to build an instrument. Suddenly, they hear the past Dean play some music. Enraged by his failure, the present Dean destroys his self-made instrument and invites the past Lana to eat instead. However, since his stuff is in the other room, they have nothing to eat. Then, Lana smells lobster from the other building and goes to check while Dean follows. Past Lana finds the room the past Dean prepared and stuffed herself. Dean leaves her to get his invention when he meets the present Lana. Lana remembers that the next item on their schedule is their sexual moment. Then, the past Dean calls Lana and reminds her of their following schedule, confirming Lana's words. Jealous, the present Lana goes to have an intimate time with the old Dean, but the present Dean stops her, thinking it's a paradox. So, Lana says that they should fill in the schedule instead, leaving Dean speechless. Afterward, they go into the other building to start feeling each other when Terry arrives. The two watch the intruder while Dean turns jealous and compares himself to Lana's ex. Lana tells him to ignore Terry, but Dean initially plans to hit him with a javelin and storm outside. The present Dean walks past his tased and unconscious self and goes upstairs. He eyes Terry's javelin and tries to take it from him. The two men grab the weapon firmly, then Terry pushes Dean into a room and outside a window at the back. Meanwhile, the past Dean wakes up and hears Lana invite Terry to leave with her. Then, Dean sees his past self confront Terry and Lana. He sees the current Lana watching the scene through the window, so he sneaks into the room. Betrayed, Dean asks her through the locked door why she left him with Terry. Suddenly, another Dean exits the room. The current Dean stares in confusion, so the new Dean leads him elsewhere to talk. Composed, the new Dean introduces himself as a man from his future and tells the current Dean to trust himself. The scientist insists on talking to Lana, but the future Dean stops him, saying that she doesn't want to see him. Jealous of himself, the current Dean swears to get her back with his element of surprise and laughs maniacally at his future self. Then, the guy from the future hands himself a paper where Dean's exact words are written, implying that he knew he would say it. The future Dean reveals that Lana loves him instead of Terry, leaving the current Dean in defeat. The scientist returns to their previous dining room, watching his past self heartbroken and his future self embracing Lana from the window. Soon, he hears Lana singing from the toilet, so Dean sneaks inside the bathroom to talk to her. However, he sees the future Dean instead, who holds a record of her voice, luring the current Dean in to prevent him from seeing her. With no way to return to his timeline, Dean relieves himself and cries alone. A few days later, the miserable scientist talks to Lana, whom he molded from the barren soil out of loneliness. One night, he hears Lana and his future self loudly making love in their room. Horrified, the scientist sneaks inside, sees them in action, and makes eye contact with himself, so he quietly backs away and cries in his own room. A year passes and the future Dean offers to help the current Dean. He points to the past Dean calling Lana in the phone booth to greet her with a happy anniversary. Teary-eyed, Dean asks himself why Lana prefers his future self than him. Future Dean says maybe it's from his crying, but they both cry at each other anyway. Then, the future Dean claims that he went back in time for his girlfriend to choose him. Wanting to be wanted by Lana, just like the future Dean, the scientist uses his helmet and goes back once more. Back in the past, Dean composes and fixes his appearance just like the future Dean. Suddenly, the future Terry appears and introduces himself to the scientist. The athlete reveals that he also used his helmet to look for Lana. Then, the past Terry barges in and pushes the past Dean out the window. When future Terry introduces himself, past Terry stabs him with his javelin, killing him instantly while referencing Greek culture. The past Terry claims that he dreamt about many versions of himself, scaring Dean. So, the scientist exits the room to check when he meets past Lana. Dean embraces his girlfriend in relief. Then Lana sweetly invites him to leave Terry and go to a beach. Bewildered, Dean realizes that Lana was talking to him and not Terry, which the other Deans misunderstood while lying on the ground. Then he sees Lana hiding in the other building, watching him embrace the past Lana. He asks her to wait downstairs and returns to Terry, who puts his future self in a body bag. Dean watches Terry go downstairs and runs to Lana's room, where he apologizes and reveals everything. Afterward, Dean says that Terry killed himself, leaving them alone except for the other Deans. Then, the other Dean knocks and apologizes from outside, so the current Dean talks to him exactly like the future self did. Soon after, Dean watches his past self sulk. Lana learns that they stayed in the motel for a whole year, so Dean assures them they will be happy in the meantime. Time flies and the pair look back on their first date, when Dean reveals that he records himself retelling their memories and edits fake laughs in place of Lana's. At some point, they watch the past Dean walk around aimlessly. Lana asks why he hates himself, and Dean points to the man, who's miserable and lying on the empty road. Finally, the day comes when the scientist claims they could travel back into their own timeline. He goes to the past Dean and starts a conversation just like the future Dean did. However, Lana doesn't arrive just like how she should after the call, so Dean asks her to show herself as a replacement. Remembering everything in detail, Dean tapes a mic and an earpiece to his girlfriend to remind her about what to say precisely. Afterward, Lana calls the past Dean while the current Dean instructs her from another room. Lana says exactly what Dean tells her from the start until the end, so Dean tries to figure it out when he sees himself kiss Lana and switch the machine on. The scientist tries to stop his girlfriend from the earpiece and runs to prevent them from traveling back. However, Dean is too late and bangs his machine in frustration. He tries to figure out the situation and realizes that Lana is trapped in a time loop. Suddenly, Terry arrives and reveals that he tried saving himself but suffocated in the body bag. He is now looking for Lana and confesses his unusual love for her to Dean. Terry asks the scientist to take him to her, and Dean reminds him that he'll die. Nevertheless, he helps Terry travel back in time. Refusing to lose, Dean travels back again to the room where Terry puts himself in a bag. Then, Dean prepares his stuff and watches Lana and Terry talking outside after the past Dean walked away. Dean learns that Terry and Lana have cleared things up between them peacefully and asks the athlete to take her to the station. So Dean runs after them on the road when Terry's car stops since they ran out of gas. Desperate, Dean quickly explains the situation to Lana and reveals that he's been jealous of Terry and his other selves. Lana frustratedly tells him to stop, and Dean quickly heeds. Lana says that she'll walk, so Dean opens the door. However, Terry slams the door, which pinches Dean's fingers. The scientist screams in pain, so Lana exits the car and comforts him. Suddenly, a knock from Terry's trunk distracts them, which the athlete denies. The future Terry calls Lana, so the current Terry says he'll bring Dean to the hospital. Relieved by his kindness, Lana urges Dean to come when she sees Terry running away with the body bag. Nevertheless, Lana insists on taking him to a hospital, but the tired scientist refuses and tells her to take him to the nearest beach. A year later, Lana and Dean now live by the beach peacefully. At their anniversary, Lana wears her boyfriend's favorite blue dress, but Dean tells her to take it off, so the woman invites him to do it. Then, their phone rings, and Dean listens to himself greet Lana with a happy anniversary. Shocked by a call from the past Dean, he dresses up in his usual shirt and leaves to save Lana from the loop. Arriving at the abandoned motel, Dean walks into his past self going over his machine's blueprint and tases him unconscious. While looking for the instability, Lana, with an earpiece, calls him, and they both pretend according to plan. Dean appears to be talking to himself through Lana, just like what happened before. However, Lana stops Dean and removes her earpiece. With no idea what's going on, she walks away home. Shocked by the change in action, Dean follows Lana and asks if she has walked away before. Then another Lana appears and calls Dean from the motel. The past Dean wakes up, switches on the machine, and kisses Lana outside before leading her into the laboratory to travel back. Dean realizes that Lana followed him from the beach. Despite this, she reveals she doesn't think the relationship will work. Nevertheless, they profess their love for each other in tears, and Lana says he could have gifted him something simpler than his time machine. Dean admits that there's something wrong with how his mind works, swearing to get better and come back for Lana. Then, Lana walks away while the other Dean runs to her with flowers, and they finally walk away while the current scientist watches from afar.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.